Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Mad Madam Mel podcast. I am Mel. I'm an independent yarn dyer living on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland, and this is a crafting podcast primarily knitting based. If you're new here, then welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, then welcome back. Well, I am wearing my first object for today's episode. I am wearing my Salem sweater. It is finished. I have a finished object. Yeah, I know. And also, I'm recording within less than 2 weeks of my previous podcast. I know it's almost unheard of, but I'm trying. Anyway, so back to this. I finally finished my Salem sweater and I love it. It's very, very warm, so I'm not entirely convinced it'll stay on for the entire episode, but we'll try. It is I think it's supposed to be a fingering weight pattern originally, but I've changed all the gauge and such like to work for the yarns that I've got. I'm going to stand up and show you it a little better, and then we'll talk more about it afterwards. Okay, we might be struggling a little in here because I'm in the greenhouse again today, but it is a hip length sweater, crew neck, as you can see, and it's plain all over except for these panels of cabling and bubbles down each of the arms. It has 1x1 twisted rib on the cuffs and on the collar and on the bottom of the sweater too. There is no waist shaping on this because the pattern is more of a boxy oversized style, but I've made it much more fitted, and because it's more fitted and it's quite drapey, it kind of naturally comes in anyway at the waist, which is perfect. I'm going to sit back down now. Okay, the pattern is called the Salem Sweater, like I said, and it is by Tristan Molina from Dragon Horde Designs. She is a yarn dyer and designer, as a knitting designer as well, and the pattern itself, like I said, is supposed to be more of a boxy oversized sweater and slightly more swan show style. The armholes are supposed to come a little bit further down, not extreme like some of them can, but a little bit further down. But it's the whole lifting your arms up and your whole top coming up every 5 minutes will drive me crazy, so I turned it into a sweater. And the way I did this is, this pattern calls for fingering weight yarn held double with a lace mohair or lace weight yarn to make more of a, I would say, sport to DK weight. What I've done instead is I've held a fingering weight yarn with another fingering weight fluffy yarn to make definitely more of a worsted sort of a weight yarn. Arguably iron weight, maybe. The pattern is knit normally on a, let me find it, a 3.75mm needle with a gauge of 23 stitches, 36 rows. But I've knit mine on a 5mm needle and 4mm for the rib, and my gauge is 18 stitch, 24 rows, so that's considerable difference in there. I would show you a photo, but the photo that I've got on my pattern is pretty much as you can see here. In fact, you can see more on screen than you can on the pictures that I've printed out in any case. So I will show you the yarns that I've used. For my contrast yarn, no, let's start with the main yarns first. I wanted to use this yarn that I bought, I don't know, 2-3 years ago from Old Maiden Aunt, and this is her colourway Bling Bling. It was a limited run. Ooh, I have fluff. And it's this beautiful shade of burgundy with other multicolours in there. We've got green and blue and orange. What else? Yeah, mostly green, blue and orange in there. And it is on a merino nylon gold stellina base. But I only had one skein of this, so I also used one of my own hand dyed yarns on the same base, which is merino nylon gold sparkle, in my colourway Ruby, and this is botanically dyed yarn. 2 skeins isn't going to be enough. So I went back in my stash and I pulled out this skein of merino nylon without sparkle on the same colourway as this, which is Ruby. It's ever so slightly different, but it's botanical dyeing is not quite the same as indie dye. You can't get quite, it's very difficult to get skeins exactly the same from different batches anyway. So I used all 3 and I alternated skeins on every row, and I use helical knitting to do so. I have quite a bit of this yarn left. I believe I've got 20 grams or thereabouts of each of these, so I will be able to use these 3 together to make a pair of socks if I chose, or I've got some contrasting colours to go in some colour work later on down the line. The yarn that I held double instead of lace mohair is the Drops Alpaca in, I believe it's Burgundy Mix, but it is colourway 3969, and like I said, I think it's a Burgundy Mix, which is this nice burgundy colour, which is not going to focus very well, and it's got these little blue flecks in it, which you can't really see the blue in the sweater, but it works really well with the other yarns. I mentioned that I've knit this on a 5mm needle, and yeah, it's come up lovely. It's really drapey, not over drapey. It's not open at all. I mean, you can, other than where the bobbles are, you can't see my skin through the sweater itself. It feels lovely and soft, and it has got that bit of drape from the alpaca, from the Drops Alpaca, which is lovely. It's got a bit of fluff, but without being over fuzzy, which lace mohair, I love lace mohair. Mohair silk lace. I love its fluffiness, I love its softness, but it is very fluffy. This has kind of got light fluff, a light haze, without being overly fluffy. But it's also very warm, because alpaca is very warm. Which is why I'm not entirely sure if I will keep it on for the whole episode. It should be okay. The sun hasn't come out completely yet. We've still got a lot of cloud around. It's quite early in the morning. I don't know if it's about, I don't know, maybe 9 o'clock at the most. So this is my first finished object. I'm trying to think what else there is to say about it. I think I knit this with maybe 2, at the most 4 inches of positive ease. The sweater pattern itself calls for 12 to 15 inches, which would make, like, this is a very boxy, drapey sweater, which on the size that I was knitting would be a lot of knitting. But with knitting this with a chunkier yarn in effect, and I knit the smallest size to make the size sweater that I have knit up, and it has come up perfect, and I love it, and I'm looking forward to wearing it in the autumn, because it's got that lovely plummy kind of dual tones, which will be perfect when the autumn comes around. Not so great for the summer. We are just getting a bit of summer. I believe the rest of the UK is hitting a heat wave. We are not. It is, I think the thermometer said it's around about 14 degrees outside. Celsius. What's that in Fahrenheit? Double it in at 30, 28, 58 Fahrenheit, 60 Fahrenheit, something like that. Yesterday I think it got up to highs around 18 Celsius in the day. We're not having a heat wave, but we are having a drought on an island in Scotland. I know, it's very strange. Anyway, I'm going off topic. That is my first finished object. Well, it's my only finished object, but it's my first object of the episode, and another finished object done. Okay, for object number 2 and my first whip, I only have 2 whips. I'm doing well this week. Is an object, a work in progress, an object. It is a garment that I showed first on the previous episode, and it is flying along. It is the Hetty cardigan by Andy Satterland, and it is this vintage shape style lace work cardigan knit in an Aran weight yarn, so it is knitting up quickly. I've actually knit this exactly to gauge which is 15 stitches, 24 rows, knit on a 5mm needle, and my gauge came up spot on, so I have, you know, knit to the pattern. I've even knit to the pattern almost exactly. I've only tweaked it for my personal measurements and that's it. Otherwise I have knit the pattern as stated. I've knitted the second to last size, which is a 49-inch bust, and this one goes up to a 53.5-inch bust at the biggest size. So let's see how we're progressing. Just pop that down there. I have a chair over there with my bags on, which is what I keep reaching for. So last time I showed you I had done most of the body, and now I have finished the body and I have finished one sleeve. So let me try and show this. There we go. We've got this bright scarlet red yarn. I've knit the rib on the bottom as well, and I have knit one sleeve complete. All I need to do now is the second sleeve, which I haven't started. I need to pick up the stitches for, and the button band and the collar. So what have I done? Well, the pattern is a top-down cardigan, which is perfect because it's how I like it. It is knit flat, but it's fine because it's knit on iron weight yarn, which knits up really, really quickly. The sleeves are knit in the round. They're picked up from the top and knit down. So what can I say? Apart from I can see kitty hairs all over it, so please ignore that. The only things I've changed are I had knit the rib down to the point where I wanted to cast off, and I tried it on and decided that I needed to do one extra repeat of the lace to make it long enough so that the join between the main body and the rib there would hit right on my waistline. On the original pattern, I don't know how well this is going to show on camera on this black and white photo, but the lace work stops right on Andy's waistline. And when I looked on Ravelry, I decided and looked at other people's patterns. Obviously everybody's different, everyone's waistline's different, so some people landed, their waistlines were higher or they were lower, and I definitely preferred the look of it when it hits right on the waistline, and it was too high on me. So I frogged out all the 1x1 rib, which was a bit annoying, but I did it anyway. And what I should have done was trust my instincts. Once I'd got, before I'd knit the rib where I thought I needed an extra repeat, but then I did that and I added an extra pattern repeat, so that's another 8 rows, and redid the rib and cast off with a stretchy bind off. The only other thing I changed was I knit one less lace repeat on the sleeve. Have proportionately short arms, so when I had finished knitting the lace work, it was already sort of halfway down my forearm, and then with the rib would have looked either like a too long a 3/4 sleeve or too short a full length sleeve. So also the pattern repeat for that size, it ended right at the base of the lace work, rather than with these few rows of stockinette, which depended on the size as to when it finished. So all I did was I ripped out the last bit of the lace, re-picked up the stitches and knit a shorter rib as well. I knit 10 rows, I think it is. 1, 2, 3, yeah. 10 rows of rib, and I think the original pattern is 15 rows of rib. So I made the sleeve just that little bit shorter and looks a lot better. Again, I did a stretchy bind off and I hid the final decrease round, instead of being at the beginning of the final lace repeat that I frogged, as I put it just before the rib, the row just before the rib. And yep, it looks really good on, really happy with it. Hopefully won't take much longer, but I have kind of put it on pause for my final work in progress, because this is an iron weight 100% wool cardigan, and it is July and we have got kind of the warmest couple of weeks of the year coming up. It's warmer, it's too warm to wear this, so there's no rush to get this finished before the end of this month or anything like that. Although admittedly our summer is kind of over the first week in August. We have a very short season. So I'm put this on hold for the next week or so because I want to finish another object that I cast on before the last episode but hadn't really got anywhere with it yet, but I have now. So I'm going to show you that finally. I don't think there's much else to say about this until it's complete, other than I really like it. Oh, the yarn I'm using. The yarn I'm using is, let me show you. It is nothing fancy. It is from my drop stash. It is Drops Alaska in colorway 11, which on the screen, and when I looked in editing last week, it looks almost an orangey red, but it's not. In real life it's more of a true red. I prefer a cool or a true red for my colouring, and it looks orange on camera, and I don't know if I can get it to look true on camera. Maybe. So there we go. So on to object number 3. Okay, my final object for this episode is, like I said, a reasonably new cast on. I cast on about 3 weeks ago, but I've been working on it actively, but I can't talk today. It's too early. Actively for the last 2 or 3 days, and it is the red Currant T-shirt top, whatever you want to call it, by Ellie of Scandia Knits. And I loved this as soon as I saw it. She's just brought it out in the last 3 weeks or so. It is a slightly cropped t-shirt with these nice big puffy sleeves on it, but she has knit it in a linen yarn, and it is not warm enough here for linen. So her gauge for this is supposed to be, what is 16 stitches, 26 rounds, which I'm almost knitting to. I've got 16 stitches, 22 rounds, so I'll have to take that into account when I come to do the top part, because this top is knit from the bottom upwards, and I am knitting it bottom upwards as well. She has knit this on a 100% linen light fingering weight yarn held double, and on a 5mm needle. I'm knitting this on a 6mm needle to get gauge, and I'm using a fingering weight yarn as well, held double, but it isn't linen. It is a cotton bamboo blend. The yarn I'm using is the, oh, that's gonna blow out on screen, Sheepy's Bamboo Soft. If it'll focus, I'll hide my face. Sheepy's Bamboo Soft, and it is a 50% bamboo, 50% cotton. So it's still, you know, it's still going to be cool compared to wool, but it's not going to be freezing cold like wearing linen, which I could probably wear for 2 weeks of the year. And it is in colourway 251, which is called Deep Cherry, and it's showing up fairly true on camera as well. It's very similar in colour to the sweater that I am wearing, slightly lighter and brighter, but not by a huge amount. So far I have knit, I'm going to try and get it untangled, because I was knitting on this whilst watching the last 2 episodes of The Mandalorian last night with my husband, so I kind of stuffed it in there when it was finished. I have knit so far about so much, which doesn't look much, but it also has a folded hem on the bottom, which I've never done before, and I rather like it. John, my husband, likened it to when you create a hem on the knitting machine, because he grew up with his dad knitting scarves and hats on the knitting machine when he was a kid, and they all had these folded hems. So what you do is you knit twice the length of your hem, fold it up, and you knit through both stitches at the beginning of your main body to join them together, which is a little fiddly, I have to say, but it works. I think I missed one stitch on the bottom, on the back rather, halfway round, which I wasn't going to pull back to get, so I had to kind of knit 2 together at the end, knit through 3 stitches or something at the end. No, knit through the back again on the first one of the next round, just to tidy it up. And I've knit nearly 4 inches on the main body as well. I'm a little concerned about the amount of yarn I've got. I've got 500 grams, which sounds like a lot, but cotton weighs quite a bit more than wool. It's knitting up loose-ish, but not loose like linen. Hers is quite see-through, mine's not so see-through. Like, so you can see, I don't know if you can see there, but you can see my hand through it a little bit, but it's, I would probably still have to wear a vest under it, but I could probably get away with just a bra under it if it wasn't a revealing bra, if you know what I mean. It's knitting up really fast because it is all stockinette, pretty much. The hem, folded hem, is stockinette. There was 1 row of purl on the fold, and then we've got stockinette all the way up to the underarms. Then you knit the sleeves from the cuff, again folded cuffs. Knit the sleeves up to the underarm, that's it, and then you join it to the body and you knit the upper part of the sleeve at the same time as this section of the sweater. Now it's got a crew neck, not as high like this, but it's, I would say it's kind of at the bottom of the collar on this sweater. I'm not sure if I want to keep it that high or whether I'll stop a little lower, or just the decreases, yeah, but the shaping for the collar anyway. Or I bought this pattern as part of a collection. She brought 4 patterns out at once, summer patterns. I can actually show you the neckline a little better on this photo. As you can see, it's quite high. She brought 4 patterns out at once, and I bought the whole set because I loved them all. One of the other ones uses a worsted weight, I believe, yarn, and it is more of a sweetheart neckline. I might combine the necklines and make more of a sweetheart neckline on this one using the other pattern for kind of to reference, but I'm not sure. I have to decide. If I think I'm running a little short on yarn, I might do that as well, because I think it'll use just a little bit less yarn, but we shall see. I haven't decided yet. I've already used 2 balls of the yarn, 100 grams worth, and I've only knit so far, but I have done that folded hem as well. So if my calculations, vague calculations whilst watching TV last night, are correct, as long as I only use 6 balls up to the underarm where you have to stop and start the sleeves, I should have enough yarn to do the whole top. Otherwise I might be acquiring another ball of yarn. And I realised when I bought this yarn, when you look at the lot number is 1. Does that mean that they're literally brand new? Or does that mean that there won't be any more lots? Hard to say. Hopefully I will have enough yarn. If not, I don't know. Maybe I'll get 1 ball somewhere. Maybe there is still some on the shop. Or if not, I might be scouring Ravelry for another ball. But hopefully there is enough. The sleeves are quite billowy for puff sleeves as well. So they're going to take a bit of yarn. But like this, as long as I only use 6 balls by the time I get to the underarm, I should be fine. And you're only supposed to knit 12 inches of stockinette up to the underarm after the cast on edge. And I've already knit nearly 4. Plus the 3 inches of the folded hem knitting, so that's sort of 7. So I still need another 8. I should be fine. I should be fine, but we shall see. So that is all the knitting content. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's been happening around here. As you can see, I'm in the greenhouse again. It saves me setting up lights in the house on a cloudy day when it is dull. And it's just me being lazy, really. My beans are going crazy. My runner beans have already been eaten and they're lovely. My pumpkins are going huge. My jack-o'-lantern pumpkins are dark green, which makes me think that saving the seeds from a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin wasn't such a great idea. I don't think it's breeding true. I mean, we'll still get pumpkins, but there might be green ones. And I don't just mean they're pale green before they go orange. I mean they're dark green. We have some dark green hubbards and I'm pretty sure they didn't cross-pollinate, or the first one didn't anyway, because there wasn't many flowers on then. And I did pollinate them by hand as well. But they're all looking a bit dark green. But that's okay. We'll just have green pumpkins for Halloween. Doesn't matter. My candy roasters. That's excellent. I'm so pleased. I've noticed courgettes in here this morning. I've not been in for a couple of days. They're going to have to be picked today, this morning. Or we're going to have marrows instead. And marrows are not as tasty as courgettes. Or zucchini, if you're stateside. What else? What else? What else? We've been really busy. Just doing summer stuff. I picked a huge batch of rhubarb and made rhubarb jam, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's the best batch I've ever made. Other than that, not a lot's happening. My oldest son is coming up to visit in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks time. First time I've seen him in a couple of years because of, you know, pandemic, which is great. And that'll be nice to have visitors. It's a busy time this summer. I don't know if anybody else finds it. I don't know, I don't know whether people relax over the summer. We don't. We just seem to be busier than any other time of year. It's when we have family visit, and our self-catering business is really busy and everything's growing in the garden, so you're constantly like weeding, harvesting. Some of our potatoes are going to be picked, you know, pick potatoes, dug up in the next week or so, probably less, because, you know, blight. Yeah, so we discovered blight a couple of days ago, so they're gonna have to be all the tops taken off and the potatoes lifted, washed, dried, stored. I'm hoping it doesn't get into the pink fir apple potatoes, because they are one of the latest potatoes that need to be picked. There we go, picking in, dug up, and they are nowhere near ready. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that they survive. Hopefully I shall be with you. Oh, before I forget, I can't remember if I've actually showed on the podcast. I will have to show next time if not. But I will certainly post on my Instagram and everything, which I will pop in the box down below if you're on the YouTube channel. And that is that the collaborative dye collection that I was part of with Perth Festival of Yarn, the pre-orders for that are closing at the end of the month, so it's only a couple more weeks left to go on that. So if you're wanting to order those, you need to hop on, and I'll try and remember to put the link for that in the box below as well, because that will be closing soon. That is a collaboration that I'm doing to time with the Perth Festival of Yarn, which is happening this year in the beginning of September. Obviously it was cancelled last year due to COVID, but it's back this year on a smaller scale, but consequently we have got lots of other things going on, as well as the online marketplace. There is also a collaboration between me and 9 other dyers to make a 10 mini skein collection, and we've all kind of based it on our localities. We're all Scottish based designer or dyers, so we've all took inspiration that from our areas and what inspires us and what our areas mean to us and to people who visit them. So I have a mini skein colourway called Ness of Brodgar, which is inspired by our World Heritage site, which is the Ness of Brodgar, obviously. And yep, if you'd like to find out a little bit more about, I will pop the information for that down below as well. Okay, so that's it for this episode, and I will hopefully see you again soon. Bye bye.